Hey everybody, hey and welcome to day 5. We are on our last final day of our 5-day challenge. Let me just make sure that I'm recording this just in case something happens to Zoom. There we go. Very, very excited to have you all here today. Let me know if you're watching live. I'm just going to quickly jump into our Facebook group so that I can follow along with the comments and make sure that everyone can see me and everybody can hear me before we go ahead and get started. And as we do, or before we do, again, I just want to celebrate the fact that you are here and the fact that you have shown up. We've made it to day 5. We've been doing all your little assignments each day, and that just says a lot about your commitment to yourself and your journey and the results that you want to get. So I'm very, very proud of each and every one of you. All right, let me just make sure that we are live. I just can't see my video pop up yet, so I just want to make sure that we are good to go. Beautiful. I think we've got Abby watching. Great to see you again, Abby. You have had an awesome week. It's so good to see you showing up each and every day. I just love your commitment, so that's awesome. All right, so firstly, before we do get into it, I really just want to have you let me know what your biggest takeaway from all of the content has been so far, like over each of the days. Like I know that we've sort of broken the days down very specifically in terms of the topic and the content, but I'm just really curious, like what was your biggest takeaway from not only yesterday, but also from the days that we've covered so far, from days 1 to 4. I really just want to get that, I guess, learning that you've had, or those aha moments that you've had, and really just have those cemented for you in terms of what's been the biggest thing. So with the videos, if you haven't already watched them yet, you've still got a little bit of time. I'm going to leave them up until next Thursday. Okay, so you'll have a couple of days over the weekend, a few days into next week to go through any of the videos that you haven't watched. Perhaps maybe you want to watch them again, which is completely cool, but I do take them down just purely because I want to make sure that we do, make sure that you are watching them. You've got that time frame to make sure that you do get it done, right? I really do believe that having a deadline works so well, right? Because if you just like, oh, I'll do it later, like later never usually comes. So I just use that as a way to make sure that you all get in, you all go through the content and get as much out of it as you can. So I really want to encourage you to make that a priority this week or this weekend. Hey Tabitha, great to have you here as well. You've been awesome this week. It's been so great to see you here and just putting in the work, putting in the effort and showing up. Like that's such a credit to you. So Abby, Tabitha, everyone who's watching live, everyone who's watching the replay, I get that you can't all come here live, which is totally okay. But the fact that you're continuing to watch, you're continuing to show up is awesome. And that just tells me that you have got such a desire to change and that you really want to make this change and this transformation. So I really want you to acknowledge that in yourself. So that's really great. All right, so yeah, the videos will be up until Thursday. I just wanted to cover that, and it's just really today is looking at, okay, all of this content that we've covered over the last 5 days. How are we going to now make those next steps? Like, what does that look like? What does that come into looking like when it comes to actually taking the action and doing the things, right? And that's what today is going to be all about, okay? It's looking at those 5 ingredients of what we need, like we spoke about yesterday about making the cake, right? So this, in terms of results, is going to be, okay, what are those main ingredients that you can take away from these 5 days to put into practice to make sure that you get a lasting and permanent transformation, right? Because that's what we want. So, really, we've gone through, I guess, the mindset, we've gone through the reality of where you want to get to and where you are now. We've gone through nutrition, we've gone through training. So it's really just about how you can put all of that together to make a really effective plan that's connected to your goals, right? Because I'll keep saying this again and again, it has to be specific to you and your goals, right? So it's about that specific plan for you, which is going to look completely different to the next person who's watching the video or going through the challenge. So, and again, it's really about creating action, because there's one thing to go through all this content and learn and, and soak in all the knowledge, but you really have to put that knowledge and learning into practice. You have to implement, you have to really go through and experience that to create that lasting transformation. So beautiful. Believe I can change my body, stop self-sabotaging, weight training is key, abs are made in the kitchen. Yeah, awesome. I love it, love it, love it. So that's fantastic. All right, so let me just go through here. Let me start sharing my screen. Sorry, let me bring this up so I can make sure that you can see everything before we get stuck into it. Beautiful. All right, so day 1, we looked at that starting point, we looked at that end point. So you've got those two goalposts, I guess, and you've got the finish line of what it is that you want to achieve, right? So that's what we did in day one. So again, if you don't define that, it's going to make those action steps or the steps to get there a lot more difficult, all right? So if you've got a really clear end destination, like if you were to put that into Google Maps, it's going to take you right there, okay? Whereas if you had, I was going to Queensland from Melbourne, you could end up, 1,000 kilometers from the final destination, right? So you really need that clear, specific end point, okay? And again, the beginning point too, right? Because again, if you're going from Melbourne to Queensland, that's going to be very different from Tasmania to Queensland, okay? So I really just want you to notice the importance of why that is so very crucial that you have those 2 points, okay? So in day 2, we uncovered some of the common blocks to stopping you, from perhaps taking that action or being consistent with that action, because it really does take consistent action, right? And with consistent action, I really truly believe that morphs into who we are as a person, right? Like the actions that you take consistently become you, become your personality, become your identity, right? So we really have to look at if there's those invisible blocks that keep coming up. A lot of the times we don't know they're there. So we really have to shine that light on them and really become aware of them to be able to firstly acknowledge them and then to be able to secondly shift those, okay? So that's really important as well. Day 3, we looked at the common myths of weight loss and nutrition and what that actually requires to get there. We looked at, macro tracking as one of the key tools to be able to obviously have that effective plan, but have that really enjoyable plan as well. And looking at, you don't have to see foods as good or bad or kind of label them or follow other people's rules. It's just really understanding that, our body sees calories and macronutrients as a way to fuel the body, right? So we really have to understand where that sweet spot is between fueling the body, being in that calorie deficit, having a plan that we enjoy, and that's going to be effective in reaching our goals. So we talked about that. And today I'm going to really talk to you about like what that looks like in terms of building that customized plan, building those next steps so that you can really just build on the momentum that we've had during this week. So you're going to get a lot out of that today. And I think probably a lot of you have had a lot of realizations when it comes to like nutrition and your food and how you actually fuel your body. So I really think that this is going to create like a huge shift in your journey in moving forward, just to be able to understand this from a deeper level. And I guess it's really realizing that, it's not just one single action. It's really just, again, that consistent action over time. And sometimes I think, we can make it too big, right? All these things that we need to do. So even though it's like the sum of the small actions that we take, it starts with just one action, right? So we take those actions consistently over time, and that's what's going to allow you to really like step into that confidence, step into that person who is stronger in mind and body, fitter, healthier, more confident. I got a message from a lady this morning. She's just done so well. She said, she's just feeling so much better. And I said, what's the biggest difference from feeling better in your day? And she's like, I just have more confidence, right? So imagine like if you could go about your day, like what would that mean for you? Like if you could like just rock up and be like, each day I just feel confident. Like just think about the things that perhaps you might put off doing, or the things that you sort of stress about in your day doing, right? If you're feeling like you have more confidence, like how would that change your day? How would that change your life? So it's really about really focusing on those small actions, right? So we talked about like being the macro expert. That was a really big focus on day 3. We talked about the training plans, making sure that they are progressive, and the difference between what training looks like and what working out looks like, and not saying that either is right or wrong or bad, but just if you're wanting to get specific results when it comes to your body, you have to really be training as a person who is training for a goal, rather than someone who's just working out for the reason of fun or health or fitness or whatever it might be, right? So really want to talk to you about how that becomes possible, right? How that becomes possible. All right, so beautiful. Break bad habits, make new positive habits. Beautiful. And it's so good, isn't it, Abby, to understand that you are the powerful force behind that, right? Like it comes from you. You get to be that person who does that. So that's really cool. All right, so like I spoke about yesterday, the cake analogy, like baking the cake and kind of having that the ingredients and making sure that we're not missing the really crucial ingredients. Like, there's some things that aren't so important, perhaps the vanilla or, a little bit of cocoa or something like that. If it's, we're changing the flavor from vanilla to chocolate, right? So that's not going to be as important as the main ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the milk, right? So our cake isn't going to rise and it's not going to taste really good if we miss those ingredients. So I really want to make sure that you are setting yourself up to success to get your really nice, tasty cake, okay? All right, so this is day 5. So who's with me? Who is ready to get stuck into it and go through our 5 steps or 5 ingredients that we need to really to create this lasting success and these action steps? And you'll see in your day 5 assignment that I've sent through to you this morning that I really want you to go through this video. If you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, fill that out for me, right? Once we go through this, you're going to really understand what these 5 steps are. So that's today's task, is to go through and fill out those blanks, okay? All right, so the 5 ingredients. So number 1, design your customized meal plan, okay? Number 2, execute your progressive training plan. Number 3, remove the mental blocks. Number 4, make data-driven decisions and adjustments, and execute your reverse diet is number 5, okay? So I'm going to go through these really quickly just to start with, but I will go through them one by one so that you've got a good understanding of that. So we will move through there, but I guess it's just really understanding how you can move through these 5 steps really seamlessly, so that you can really experience that visible progress, right? That allows you to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, like I like the way that I look. I like the way that my body looks. I feel confident in my body. I feel comfortable in my body, and actually see something different in your results that possibly you've been working towards for a long, long time, but maybe not getting there as you go through this process. So you'll be able to really just see everything that we've covered in the 5 days, how it all starts to come together, okay? So who is with me? Beautiful. Hey, Sarah, good to have you here as well. Great to see you've made it to day 5. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to cover ingredient number 1. All right, designing your customized plan. And when I talk about this customized plan, I'm talking about meal planning, okay? So using macro tracking as a tool, okay, so we spoke about that in day 3, and basically setting your starting macros, right? So we need to start somewhere, okay, and we talked about that sweet spot, okay, so what is that sweet spot? So when we look at that, like this is kind of, I guess, that sweet spot of that fat loss sweet spot, having a low enough calorie level to be able to provide a calorie deficit, right? But a high enough of each macronutrient to optimally fuel your body, okay? So who really gets that? There's a bit of a balance there. Like we need to have obviously a low enough calorie level to be in a deficit, but a high enough calorie level to be able to get enough macronutrients, enough fuel in your body to be able to still do everything that it needs to do, okay? If it's too low, which often probably in 80% of ladies that I work with, a lot of the times it's way, way, way too low, you're going to have like this metabolic adaptation, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but I know that we spoke about like adaptation yesterday in terms of training. So I'm going to talk about that today in terms of nutrition, right? And if it's too low as well, it's not going to be enjoyable, okay? We're not going to be enjoying what we're doing. We're going to be, thinking about food all the time. We're going to be hungry and we're going to be miserable, right? So it's like, we really need to have that sweet spot to be able to find that fat loss little pocket, okay? And then there's step 2, making sure that you're breaking down those macronutrients that obviously make up your calories, so that you are getting enough of those each day, because again, we really need to have that good balance to make sure that you are getting everything. And what I see a lot of women do, right, and this is a very, very common mistake, is they get excited about going, yeah, I'm going to track my macros, I'm going to count my macros, maybe because they've heard about it or someone's spoken about it. And what they'll do is they'll go into My Fitness Pal, and Fitness Pal is going to, like, you put in some data about yourself, you tell My Fitness Pal, all your stats, and it'll give you some macro numbers, right? And for the love of God, like I really just want to let you know, do not follow what My Fitness Pal spits out at you. Like that is like the worst thing that you could possibly do, okay? Follow these random numbers. And I get it, that's what, we just think, okay, that must be right. and a lot of the times, no, it's not right. It's, you know, it doesn't know enough about you. Time after time, you know, we're going to get frustrated by going, oh, well, I'm just following what MyFitnessPal told me. But you're not really understanding, you know, are those numbers right for you, which a lot of the times they're not. Okay, so when you become the macro expert, you'll actually understand how to customize your own, how to look at that and go, actually, I don't believe that that's right for my body, and really know, you know, you don't just follow the numbers that calculator's thrown at you. And it could be, it doesn't have to be MyFitnessPal, it could be some other calculator too, right? But it's really looking at, okay, well, that is kind of like a customized, you know, dress, right? So if you're having your own custom numbers, you're actually getting like a tailored dress, you know, made for you. Whereas if you're kind of just plucking something off what MyFitnessPal's giving you or some sort of calculator, it's kind of like pulling the dress off the, you know, the shelf in the shop and it not being a perfect fit, right? So it's really, it has to be customized and it has to be really specific to you, as well as, you know, all of the history that perhaps MyFitnessPal doesn't know about, okay? So that's really, really important. So it's not just about, you know, clicking those, you know, buttons in MyFitnessPal, entering in the data, clicking the calculate and, you know, lose weight, and it doesn't take into account the fact that, you know, what your body composition actually is currently. Okay, so that's just one thing that I do want to point out is, you know, it's really just, it's not about eating less calories, and we'll talk more about this. It's really the reason why so many women don't see those results. Okay. All right, so this is going to explain it a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. And yeah, it's a learning process, Tabitha, absolutely. So yeah, awesome, Tara, totally agree with that. Yeah, I think that can be, you know, and again, it's nothing, it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's like, you know, once you start to see this, you'll understand why. Okay, so 4 phases of nutrition. Okay, so some of you may be aware of some of these. Some of these you might be like, I don't know what that actually means. That's okay. We're going to go through all of this. But at the moment, every single one of us here are in one of these phases, okay? Whether that's intentional or not, or whether we actually know it or not, okay? So, so we're either in a maintenance phase, a cut, a bulk, or a reverse phase, okay? So whether that's, like I said, intentional, it's like we may not be consciously aware of that, but each of us are in one of these phases, okay? So that's basically the 4 phases. So like the cut is like basically what we call a calorie deficit, and a bulk is what we call a surplus, okay? So a cut is eating like less calories than your maintenance levels to support your body weight, and a bulk or a surplus is eating more calories than your maintenance or the level that you need to support your body weight, okay? Or you're eating more or less than what you're actually using in terms of expending calories, right? And the 4th stage is reversing, which I will talk about. And this is something that is probably the most underutilized phase within nutrition that a lot of women don't actually get or understand, and what a lot of women would freak the hell out about, okay? And I'll explain this to you as well as to why that is, okay? So again, these might be like really new concepts, and if it's confusing, that's cool, because it's like anything new. Like I said the other day, it's like if you're confused, it's because you're learning something, okay? So stick with it, stick with me, and you will understand what this is. So it's really just about recognizing that, yeah, these might be some new terms. You might have heard them before or perhaps not really understood them. So this is going to be perfect. All right, so the 4 different phases. So let me just explain what this is so that you can see this like from this graphical perspective, okay? So here you are in the middle, right? You've got a maintenance. So basically a maintenance is you're eating as many calories as you burn. So you're basically maintaining whatever weight you're currently sitting at. We call this your TDEE, okay? Your total daily energy expenditure. Doesn't really mean that much, but if you've heard that term before, TDEE, that's basically what we're talking about, is maintenance calories, okay? So it's like this equilibrium. Nothing's changing. It's just like that's where you're at, okay? And you're staying the same weight. That's effectively what that means, okay? So that's maintenance, all right? And some of us may be like be in unintentional maintenance. We don't really mean to be in maintenance, but we're kind of just there and we're just maintaining, right? Some of us, might be in intentional maintenance. Like for me, I just sit in maintenance, and that's where we should be spending the majority of our time, right? Is intentionally once you get to your body composition goals, that's where you should be spending a lot of the time, right? So, you know, for me, sometimes I might do, and I'll explain this, you know, I might be doing a cut. I very rarely do a bulk, although I have increased my calories the last week because I just have been feeling really hungry. I know that just before my period, I get really, really hungry. I just increase my food. I listen to my body. I'm not going to put on body weight, which I'll explain to you as well. And you'll sort of see how that works. But I'm sort of majority spending my time here. But if you're going through a body transformation and you're changing your body composition, there will be different versions of this for you, okay? So if we eat less calories than we are burning, this is going to be what we call a calorie deficit or a cut, all right? And like I spoke to you on day 3, that's how fat loss happens, okay? We have to be in that calorie deficit, or we're eating less calories than we're burning, okay? So if you hear this, you know, definition of a cut, then, you know, it's probably more so like a bodybuilding term. If you've heard, you know, people talk about that cut, that's basically what that is, okay? The goal is to cut fat. I guess that's where the word comes from, you know, or to lose, you know, I shouldn't say weight, but it's more effectively body fat, right? So the opposite to that is a calorie surplus, right? So eating more calories than you burn, okay? And a lot of the times, again, you know, we call that a bulk, right? And a lot of people, I guess, again, say like bodybuilding terms, most people would think, oh, you know, you do a bulk. Like, you guys do this all the time. I'm like, that's just crazy. Like, you're just eating like free for all food. You're not really measuring the data. It's a little bit like, I'm just going to eat all this food and not really take that data and have it as a steady stream of data to like make adjustments from. So it's, you know, that's not the best idea. But however, you know, a lot of the times, you know, most of you probably could be in a calorie surplus, right? Eating more calories than you're actually burning. And that's where body fat, body weight, you know, starts to come in. All right. So that's on the opposite side of the spectrum. Over here, in between our maintenance and our cut, we have what we call the reverse diet. Okay. So again, it's probably not a term that you may have heard before. Your brain might be going, what the hell is that? But we will go over that and actually let you understand what that is, because I think it's so important, because so many women need to spend their time here. But if you were just doing this yourself and going, I need to actually eat more food, you would freak out, right? Like, let me know if that would be you, right? Like going, if someone said to me, like, in order to lose weight, you've got to eat more food, you'd just go like, well, you're crazy. Like, there is no way that that's going to work. That I just have to keep eating less food, right? So who would really freak out over that advice, right? And I really just want to explain to you why that's, you know, not a reason you should be freaking out, okay? And hopefully after today you'll see that. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of us are, right? So if you're in a calorie surplus, yeah, body fat, you know, is probably not where you want it to be in terms of, you know, it's higher than what you would be wanting, right? Yeah, it is. It's totally counterintuitive. So, and it's why a lot of women get really, you know, struggle a lot with their nutrition. Okay. All right. So this is what most women think what weight loss should look like, right? So, or fat loss. So we should be like, cut. Less calories, less food, just keep cutting, just keep being intentional about taking out more food, always eat less, always be, you know, burning more calories than you're actually taking in, cut, right? Who has kind of seen this before? Yeah, absolutely, Abby, right? So yeah, if you're eating like a bird and then binging on food at night, you probably are in a calorie surplus, right? Like, you know, if you're binging on chocolate, if you're binging on, you know, really high calorie foods, and, you know, you're not seeing results, and you probably potentially are in a calorie surplus. And like you said, that balance of food that you aren't getting, like the macronutrients, then you would probably be, you're not getting all of those protein, carbs, and fats in the right balance, right? So yeah, it's a big thing. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like that whole restriction, like I'll just eat like a bird and less food, less calories, and then your body's starving. So then it wants, you know, all the fatty, you know, not so good food at nighttime, right? So basically what a lot of women do, yeah, is really spend their time there. Cutting food is about less, right? When in reality, this is what the process actually should look like. Now I say should look like, this is not how it should look for everybody, but this is like an example of where most women should be, right? So it should look like, you know, something like this. Okay, you've been in a cut, Now what we need to do is do a reverse, right? Start to increase your calories back up to maintenance again. And then we can do a second cut, pull them back. Then we can go back to maintenance. Then we might want to do some muscle building with like a little bit of a surplus, okay? And when this process is taking place, your body is changing, right? When I say do a bulk, that doesn't mean like, oh my God, I'm going to put on 5 kilos. No, that just means that you're giving your body the right environment to be able to build muscle. If you're in a cut and low calories, it is very difficult for your body in that environment to build lean muscle. Okay. So again, it could look like, you might do, you might be in calorie, surplus over here. So then you might do a cut. Then you might sit at maintenance for a while, then do another cut, and then you might do a reverse. So it could be, it doesn't have to look just like this, but there's these phases that we should be going through intentionally. That's really what I wanted to make the point of. All right. Yeah, exactly, Abby. Yeah, busy during the day. It is a trap. Exactly right. It can be a big trap. So, and that's really where that, that planning and being, organized can come into play as well. So, but it really is about, again, finding something that's customized to you, right? Like you might not have time to eat certain meals during the day, but as a whole over the day, you're still getting that good balance of nutrition. Okay. So this isn't prescriptive at all. I'm not saying like take this and do this, but this is just what the process should look like. Okay. For a lot of women, it's not just cut, less food. That's not the goal, right? It's not about cutting. That's not the secret. If you're that's your strategy, like I spoke about in day 3, it's not a good strategy. Okay. This is not what we should be doing. Okay. So it's just really about these 4 phases to actually get to where you want to be, with the goal at the end, down here, like me, sitting in maintenance. You're not putting on weight, you're not losing weight, you're just happy with how your body looks. You're training to stay, fit and healthy and strong. You are eating to enjoy your food, but to be healthy and, fuel your body as well. And it's just this beautiful place of just like, wow, this is just easy, right? So last night I ate chocolate. My son come home with a block of chocolate from his trip to the athletics trials that he was at. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have some of that. So I did it. And I was like, yeah, cool, that can fit with what I'm having. So it was like, no big deal, right? But I knew during the day, like I'd eaten enough good food that's going to fuel me to be able to accommodate, doing that, right? So it's just a really nice place to be. There's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no, oh my God, I've just binged again. Next day I'm going to just not eat any food to make up for that binge that I had last night, right? So it's just a really nice place to be in terms of mentally, but obviously too, like just liking how you look and liking how you feel, right? So it's really just understanding too that, when you are like looking at, what you need for your body, your macros, it's not that's just like a set and forget, right? That's where you start. And then, that you start in that phase, and then you bounce through these other phases and transition through those as well. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. So yeah, 4 phases. So maintenance, cut, bulk, and surplus. So how do I figure it out? That's what Tabitha was asking before, like how do you work that out? So the first thing is asking yourself, like, yeah, what is the goal? Okay, and what is the priority of that goal? And a lot of you are going to say, like we spoke about yesterday, it's going to be some sort of combination of losing fat, gaining muscle. Okay, and like I just showed you before, they're completely opposite environments. Okay, one's a calorie surplus, one's a calorie deficit. The optimal environment in your body calorically from losing fat is going to be different to the optimal environment to gain muscle. Okay, so doesn't mean that they both can't happen simultaneously. Like that's not what I'm saying. It's not an either or. To an extent, you can optimize for both. And a lot of the times when women are starting out, you get what we call like newbie gain. So it's actually quite easy to start with to like build muscle and lose fat. But as you go in through your journey and your body adapts, it's a lot more probably fine tuning, right? It becomes like that progress kind of slows down in terms of the muscle building and what you're doing. So that's where you have to be really progressive about your training, right? So really you just want to ask yourself, like, what am I optimizing for? Am I losing fat? Am I building muscle? The next question that you ask yourself is like, how long have I been dieting for? The longer that you've been dieting, the longer that you've been eating really low calories, the longer that you've been like less food and eating really low calories, the more likely that is that you have to start with a reverse diet. Okay, so again, if you haven't heard that term, I'm going to go through it in a minute, but it's like you can't get to where you want to be without reversing up to the point of back to maintenance. Okay, that's just how it is. Like if that's just your strategy, like I spoke about in day 3, like where does it end? Does it get down to the point where you're eating like no calories at all? And again, like what would happen? Like you would die, right? You know, we need to eat food, we need to fuel our body, we need to be like a car and have gas in the tank so that we can actually, you know, get to where we want to go, right? So so it's really like, I guess also looking at too, like what results have you seen in the past? You know, like you've been obviously taking these actions in the past, you've been dieting or you've been training, like what results have you actually seen from those actions that you've been doing? So it's really about looking at that as well. So the whole history, and also too, like what adjustments that you've made to this point. So asking yourself that question, like, you know, what adjustments have you made? Like what sort of tweaks have you sort of had in your progress? Because that's going to be really big as well, right? So they're really the questions that we need to ask ourselves, like before we even pinpoint like what phase we should start in, what phase we should be in. And again, this might be a lot of information to kind of, you know, take in to start with. We're going through it quite quickly. You might want to go back and re-listen to this video once we've sort of gone through this, so that you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I get what she sort of means there. But really, what we need to do is just really understand that we have to, you know, have some starting, you know, macros, which is obviously calories, to begin with, based on where you're at in these phases. And then you need to customize a meal plan, okay, to be able to create the food that comes with that, right? So you need to be able to turn those numbers, those calories, those macros into food, and what you're actually going to eat in the day. So who can kind of get that? Yeah, it's great. It's like maintenance. I'm sorry, I think that's what you mean, Michelle. It's awesome. Like it's like freedom. It really is. So so you can all get there. I totally believe that each and every one of you can get there. Like I'm a big believer in, if somebody else has done it, so can I. Like if I see someone going, that, you know, they've achieved this goal, that allows me to go, well, if they've done it, I can too, right? So that possibility is there and they've proven that. So there's no reason why I can't do that. And I want you to have that same mindset. If you see someone that's there, you can get there too. There is nothing stopping you, right? So I don't want you to think that this is not possible, okay? All right, so hitting your macros. Now, a lot of people struggle with this, and it's sort of, I guess, a learning curve is, you know, how do we do this? How do we actually, you know, hit those macros, or, you know, nail those, you know, macro targets, whatever it will be, okay? So you'll hear perhaps people sort of talk about that, and, you know, often we sort of want to define that, but I really want to encourage you to recognize this from a place of, you know, there's a right way and a wrong way. Like I spoke about on day 3, you can turn this into like a diet, and that's not what we want. We don't want this to be a diet. We want to see this as, you know, not a right way or a wrong way, okay? So the real goal isn't to actually hit your macros, right? That's when I can sort of see it being perceived as a diet. Like, did I hit them? Yes, great. Did I not? No, I failed. Like, I don't want it to be about that. But what I want you to see hitting your macros or nailing your macros, or, you know, eating your macros, as it's developing a consistent input so that you can make adjustments off the feedback. Okay, so what do you think I mean when I say develop a consistent input? Just let me know in the chat box what do you think I actually mean when I say that. Yeah, Abby, absolutely right. So I'm trying to eat mindfully, just not be blissfully unaware of what I'm putting in my body. Yeah, awesome. That's great. That's really good. And you can get to that point, right, where you can do that. But I think, you know, if there's obviously a goal that you want to achieve at some point, there's got to be, yeah, like that consistent input, so you can make adjustments based on what's happening with those results in your body. Okay. So who can sort of see what I mean by consistent input, just so I can have a little sip of my coffee? Yeah, awesome. So yeah, a balance of carbs, fats, proteins that make you feel best. Absolutely, exactly right. And so by having that consistent input, yeah, exactly that, Melissa. So having that right balance, like Michelle said, but putting that right amount into your body, like consistently every day, right? So if like one day you're eating, you know, this amount, it might be, say, you know, 1,500 calories, the next day you're eating 2,000, and the next day it's like, oh, I've binged, I'm going to go back down to 1,200. Like, that's not consistent, right? So we need a consistent input. That's like, you know, if you're sitting on, say, 1,600 calories with whatever phase it is that you're in. It might be 1,600 with that macro balance today, 1,600 with that macro balance tomorrow, 1,600, because then when that consistency is there, you can go, great, I've lost fat this week. My body measurements have gone down this week. And you can actually make adjustments based on that. Whereas if you're all over the place, how do you know, right? Because that input hasn't been consistent, okay? Yeah, learning what fat, protein, suits and balances, what is eating every day. Yeah, absolutely. And that's all part of that learning process, Tabitha. Absolutely. And I'm such a big believer in having that education, you know, for women to be able to know that, like, yeah, what is protein? What is carbs? What is fats? How do I put that into like a, you know, food so that I can have that consistency, right? So that's exactly right. So thanks for sharing that. So this little screen that I shared, I think it was in day one. I just want to go back to here again. I showed that diagram that's like, yep, here's the machine. We put something in. We have that input, right? We have the calories and the macros. And then we have an output, which is our results, right? So our body is like this big complex thing that's doing all this stuff. We put stuff in and the results come out, okay? It's kind of like maths, you know, if you put in like a certain, you know, numbers into a mathematical equation, you're going to get the same output, right? So, you know, if you continue to put, you know, the same input, same output, you can make adjustments based off that, okay? So it's really like, in other words, like, yeah, if you're just putting in random calories, yeah, like you just have no idea like what you're actually putting in your body every single day, it's really hard to make adjustments when it's like, well, you don't know what the input is. So how are you going to know what to change? And because a lot of women do that, what they change is like, yep, just slash the calories, just don't eat anything. Okay. And that's, like I said, I just want to keep honing in on that point. That strategy doesn't work, because if it did, right, you would be where you wanted to be. Okay. When a lot of you are saying that that's what you do, but you're still not getting that result. So don't put those random results in and expect to get, you know, an output that you can make adjustments off of. Okay, so does that make sense? You can kind of see, you know, that input that we're putting in is giving us those results. Okay, so like for me, you know, I can put consistent input into my body, you know, like the food, the dessert, the chocolate I had last night, but it's really about understanding that if I put that consistent input in, my body's going to give me results, you know, and it doesn't have to be just physical results. That could be like, oh my gosh, I feel sluggish, I'm bloated, you know, I have no energy, right? So it's not just physical results, it's those other measures as well, which I'll talk about as well. Okay, so, and it's really about going, you know, some of those are non-negotiables. Like for me, it's like my dessert is like, I'm not skipping dessert for anything or anybody. Like that just has to be like what I have in my plan every day. Okay, so, but again, like if you were just to follow a meal plan that someone's giving you, then you're not going to have that freedom to be able to customize it to what, you know, what you want to have in. Okay, so before I just go into level, into ingredient 2, it's really just, yeah, I guess understanding that, you know, people, like you said before, Abby, like, you know, if I'm busy during the day, right, if you're not creating your own customized plan, that's not accounted for. You know, if you've got, you know, kids sports during, you know, the day, or something like training at night, and you just want to grab something like quick and fast, like it's important to understand that, you know, you have to know how to adjust that yourself, okay? Because it has to align with your lifestyle, with your body. It shouldn't be just about sucking it up and just going like, this is what I have to do. I am a big believer in, you know, I give you tools to begin with, but then I want to lead you and hold your hand while you learn the tools yourself, okay? Because I don't want you to just think that you just have to follow blindly to what someone else gives you. Like there's no power in that. There's no longevity in that, okay? And that's really what we do inside of our program in FitBuds. It's like we give you that tool to begin with, but then the idea is to really just kind of, you know, do that little bit of hand holding while you start to really understand, you know, how this applies to you and how you can customize it to your lifestyle, okay? All right, so let me just have, oh my gosh, mangoes. Like we've actually just moved house, but in our old house we had the most amazing mango trees. So each summer we would just get like big fat, like they'd be like over a kilo each of these mangoes, and oh my gosh, they were just delicious. So they are just so delicious. Yeah, and dairy, absolutely, yeah. So a lot of ladies sometimes have that thing of like, you know, dairy intolerance, which I won't get into today because that's another whole different topic, but I truly believe that sometimes that doesn't actually come from dairy itself, but it comes from the other things that most women kind of do, right? So, but yeah, like if that's something that you can't do right now, it's not to say that you can't do that potentially in the future. But yeah, mangoes are the bomb. All right, so ingredient number 2, execute your progressive training plan. So basically we spoke about that. I won't go into too much detail because we went right into that sort of yesterday, but I really just want you to outline, it's just about being strategic with your training and having it based off what your goals are, okay? And not only that, having that structure in place that allows you to make progress, okay? So in other words, like it's not just random workouts, but again, not to say that, you know, if that's what you're doing, then that's, you know, I don't want to make you feel bad about that, right? Like any sort of exercise is great, but you can be more effective with it and you can get more bang for your buck in terms of the actual energy and, you know, effort that you're putting in. So it's like, if you don't want to stall, if you don't want to like have, you know, no results, then you really have to look at something that incorporates that progressive overload so that you can really have that way to make that progress, okay? I don't know why those pictures aren't showing up again. That's a little bit annoying. Let me just, I don't know why. Anyway, can you see one picture of me? That's in the gym anyway. So that's, you know, depending on, I do have some photos of, let me just stop sharing here for a minute. I think my internet has just, for some reason, decided that it is not going to want to load the pictures. Let me just see if I can do this again. That's cool. I'll just quickly share this one with you because I really just wanted to have you see that basically you don't need a gym to do this, right? So I think a lot of people fall into the trap of going, you know, you need to have a gym to be able to, you know, to incorporate weight training into your plan. But you don't. Like a lot of the ladies that we work with are just training at home, you know, with some sort of like barbell or dumbbells. Obviously gym equipment is great because you have a lot more variety. But, you know, a lot of the times, you know, training at home is something that you are going to be able to do to incorporate that progressive overload. You know, if your goal is to lose fat, build muscle, you know, or whatever it might be, or a combination of the both, right? But I guess too, it's also about understanding like you need to execute the plan, right? So notice how I said execute the progressive overload or progressive training plan, because it's one thing to like have the workout or the training plan, but you know, you need to turn up for your sessions. You need to be going to the gym, right? So it's like, you know, whether that be at home, you know, for your sessions or in the gym, you really need to take that action, right? And what did I say at day 1 or day 2? Sorry, for the self-sabotage. Like, what is the antidote for overwhelm? It's taking action, right? So it's like action, turning up for your session, doing your training, and making that happen. I'll just share that again. I don't know why my internet's a little bit dodgy. Maybe it's just thinking it's Friday and it doesn't want to do its thing. Yeah, awesome. So hopefully, can you see that slide again? Am I sharing the screen right now? I don't think I am. Let me go back here. Can you see that again? Who can see my screen right now? Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. You absolutely can. And a lot of ladies have done things like that. Like they've used like things like, yeah, water bottles filled up or the UHT milk. Like you can absolutely, anything that's like weight based, that's like heavy, you can use that you can hang on to, right? So, yeah, Tabitha, I mean, the intention's there, that's it, right? But it's the action. So it's great that you've got the intention. So to take that next step and take that action would be awesome. So, and maybe just setting a time and being like, right, that is the time, and having that deadline, right? Like I said, I'm going to take the videos down on Thursday. So like, if you haven't watched them by then, it's too late, right? So maybe I really believe that you set yourself that deadline of being like, right, that's when it's going to be, right? I'm a real crammer. So if I know there's a deadline, I'm like, right, I've got to get it done, right? So awesome. So I think you can see all of the slides again. So ingredient number 3, removing the mental blocks. This is a big one. Who really thinks that, well, again, like for you, Tabitha, like this for you is going to be a big one, right? Like removing those mental blocks. What is it there? What is that holding you back that says, you know, oh, I'm busy, I'm going to do something else, or I've got these other things to do first, that doesn't allow you to take that action, right? So it's really about, you know, looking at, if you want different results, you've got to do something different. Yeah. So it's one thing to have that intention to like, yeah, I'm going to turn up and do the session, to actually going, here I am, I'm actually executing and doing it. So, so it's really about, you know, whatever that fitness journey is in terms of, yeah, the exercise, or, you know, the nutrition, like, you know, actually, you know, doing your customized plan and actually eating the foods. It's really a matter of, if you're not doing that and you're not executing, there's blocks of some sort standing in your way. Okay. And you really need to address them, because if you don't, you're going to stay stuck. It's as simple as that. Right. So, you know, you'll get frustrated, you'll feel guilt around not doing it. You'll just get disappointed. And, you know, it's really about, I guess, uncovering those and being aware, because if you can't see it, then you can't change it, right? So it's really about, you have to look at what is the root of the weed, rather than just sort of plucking it from the top. We have to look at that deeper level, okay? And often we can't see them. So it's like, if you don't pull that from the weed, it's just going to keep growing back, okay? So you've got to get rid of them. I was actually out in my front lawn this morning pulling weeds out, so that just reminded me of pulling weeds. And it's actually very satisfying. Like, if you're pulling weeds out of your lawn, you're like, see you later, sucker. Like, you're not coming back. Like, but if I just pulled the leaf off, like, it's not gone, right? So that's a cool little analogy. All right, so oh dear, that's really, really annoying. Hang on, let me just go out of here for a minute. I don't know why it's not bringing up the pictures for me here. Let me just refresh this for a minute. Let's do this. You know what it probably is? My boys have a student free day today, so I bet you they're smashing the internet real hard. That's probably why it's going so slow. That can be my excuse. I'll blame them anyway. Let me just see if I can share the slides again. Yes, there we go. Cool. All right. It's refreshed. Share screen. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. This is such a good point. I think it's really important to incorporate a stress recovery plan for your individual self. I find I don't get any results with anything unless I nurture my body to handle stress. 100% hit the nail on the head. In our program, we have a process that we call the Fit Vibes process, and it's exactly that. It's learning to change that emotional state, change that reaction or that trigger to stress. And it's so important, because I totally believe if you're not in alignment, in emotional alignment with your true self, and you're stressed and you're, you know, thinking all these crazy thoughts, it's very, very difficult to take the action to make progress. So that's like 100% Kerry, like 100% agree with you. So that's really, really great. And I'm really glad that you actually like get that. So that's awesome. Because I totally 100% believe that. And sometimes just explaining that to clients to be like, this is what you should be doing, right? If this is what you're struggling with, sometimes it's very hard to convey that, like the importance of that. So that's really awesome that you get that. All right, so basically in day 2, we walk through, like, you know, that high level process of, you know, bringing that awareness to those blocks, and then shifting, you know, those beliefs, and, you know, changing them, and I guess, yeah, replacing those beliefs that are perhaps keeping you here in the safe comfort zone to the beliefs that you need to have to be able to step outside that and get the results that you want. So we really talked about that. And yeah, a lot of the times we have, you know, these things here that are just keeping us in that nice, comfortable, safe place of like, yeah, I'll put my workout clothes on, but I won't actually do anything. Like, right, what is that belief that you've got going on? So it's kind of like, you know, like I said before, like a lot of the clients that we work with, it's a process to go through this, like peeling back those layers, right? And it's a real, like, you know, think of it like an onion. You peel back one layer and there's something else there. So it's like peeling back those layers to uncover, you know, that, I guess, that core of, you know, your true self, who you truly are and what you truly believe, and the things that you actually truly want to do. Because I 100% believe that we can all create what we want. We can create the life we want, we can create the body we want, we can create the results we want, and see this process as not a bad thing, but just as a process of this is life, right? This is what it's about. It's really about learning and unfolding and allowing that to happen. So don't feel like just because you're in this place right now and you feel stuck and frustrated and you know, stressed and whatever it is, there is a way to just allow yourself to just gently fold back those layers to reveal, you know, what's underneath. So so I really am just, you know, I get so passionate about this, and I love talking about it because I just truly do believe, and I love that you mentioned that, Carrie, that this is, you know, one of the biggest things to be able to have that effective long-term results. Okay. And I really believe that, you know, you have to have that, you know, that, I guess, transformational coaching too, because I guess, you know, a lot of coaches, and I don't want to, you know, talk bad about other coaches, that's not what this is about. It's about understanding that a lot of people aren't coaching from this place, right? Like a lot of people are coaching from a place of, you know, do X, Y, Z and follow that, and this is where, you know, you should get to, right? But there's so much in between that is the reason why we're not doing those things that we should be doing, right? And that's what, like I explain what self-sabotage is. It's knowing what to do but not doing it, right? So it's like you need to have that level of coaching to be able to just have that transformation at a deeper level, to understand why perhaps, yeah, those things or those actions that you should be taking aren't happening. So it's really, and I really want to go into this, and that's a really good, I guess, way of just kind of segueing into this, right? Because, you know, one type of coach that you can kind of have, right, is a teacher. Now, I love to teach. Like, teaching is like something that I think is so important. You know, I think of myself as like, you know, I love teaching knowledge, and, you know, that's really something that I love to do. But it's really important to understand that that's just like the first step. You know, it's one thing to have the knowledge, but if you're not shifting behavior and shifting beliefs and having that deeper transformation, we're not going to implement, right? We can have the best knowledge, but we're not going to implement. So it's like, you know, if we all just needed to be taught stuff, we'd all be where, you know, we wanted to be, right? But it's really about not just stopping at teaching, because nothing ever changes if you're not actually implementing that, right? Cheerleader, this is another one. So this is a perfect example of like, yeah, everyone loves to be cheered and everyone loves to feel good, but you've got these tools in your toolkit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I really believe that, you know, transformational coaching doesn't sort of come from that. It comes from really just uncovering, you know, deeper layers of yourself in terms of, yeah, getting to those beliefs. The advice giver, again, there is nothing wrong with, you know, coaches that, you know, intentionally just say give advice or tell you what to do. But again, it's like, you know, giving advice from me from a place of like, oh, this is what I've gone through, just do this. It's like, that's for what works for me and is not going to work for you or somebody else, right? So it's understanding that, like, yes, that might be well-intentioned to go, oh, well, this worked for me, you do that too, and that you should get the same result. Like, no, that's not going to work the majority of time, right? So it really, again, has to come down from a place of like transformational coaching. Okay. So when you look at like transformational coaching, it's like somebody, you know, a coach is not a guru, right? A coach is like a guide that, you know, doesn't tell you what to do. You know, a guru holds all the answers, and you think you have to go to that person to have the answers and for you to give them advice. And I know for me in my business, I used to always look for those people who could be like, right, Ed, just do this. And I was always giving them the power, right? It was like looking to that guru. But when I really shifted and changed in my business, it was like when someone would like guide me and get me to ask better questions, right? Because a lot of the times I didn't understand that, you know, what that person has said, right, just do this. It's like, well, actually, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not true to how I want to run my business or how I want to be spending my days, right? So again, this comes down to your fitness journey. It's like, it has to be, you know, having someone there to ask you those better questions, who's going to turn it back on you and go, well, what is it that you want to create, right? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to, you know, experience? So it's really just, I guess, having that deeper level of, you know, having that transformational change in yourself, in your identity, in your beliefs, as well as having, you know, the knowledge and understanding as well, right? So, you know, unless I think that happens, it's going to be really difficult to maintain the results long term. So, and thank you, Michelle. I love teaching, so I'm loving that you're thinking I'm a great teacher, and I celebrate that too, because I love, you know, celebrating success. And I think, you know, it's taken me a while to kind of step into this place of, having that confidence to own that. Like I told my client this morning when she messaged me that she's feeling more confident, I'm like, own that confidence, like be proud of that. So that's really what I want for you ladies as well. So yeah, regardless of whether, you've got me as a coach or if you're looking for a coach, this is really what I want to encourage you to look for, is someone that's going to give you that transformational shift on a deeper level, okay? Because, it doesn't just, start with being, the advice giver, or, it comes with being that guide as well, okay? So, all right, so that was just a little bit of a off tangent thing, but it kind of worked in perfectly with where we were going. So ingredient number 4, and I'm going to kind of go through these a little bit faster because we've only sort of got 5 minutes to go and I don't want to be taking up all of your morning. So what we need to do now is data-driven adjustments, okay? So we talked about, being that macro dieter yesterday, or those yo-yo dieters, and it's really about like, you've got all that teaching around like macros and, they're counting and they're tracking or whatever. But what we really need to do is step into that place of being that macro expert, or like Michelle said, like that macro scientist. Because what we want to do is not make those emotional decisions based on, oh my gosh, like the weight hasn't gone down this week, or oh my gosh, I feel bigger in my clothes, rather than those emotional decisions. If we want to be successful, we've got to make those data-driven decisions, okay? So who kind of gets that? Like, who can really see that that's like the crucial step in this process? So it's like really getting clear on, gathering that data once we have that consistent input of the calories and the macros, and really just going, okay, well, what do I need to do now? Because again, when you go through those 4 phases, the inputs are going to look different, right? So what you're eating in terms of calories and macros in a reverse phase is going to be different from a cut or a maintenance, right? So it's really looking at the bigger picture. And when you get that consistent input, you're going to get that results, which you can then adjust. Okay, so who really gets that? Yeah, cool. I'm glad it makes sense. So yeah, we really need to take that hat off of like making those rash emotional decisions, but understanding that we're just manipulating inputs, right? It's like, in maths, 1 + 1 = 2, right? But if the plus sign always stays the same, but if we put, 2 + 2, it's going to give a different output, okay? So it's like if it's 1 and 1 and we get 2, we're going to get 2 every single time, right? So we keep that input consistent, okay? Now, I really want to have you understand this too, okay? So when it comes to data-driven decisions, most women are making decisions based on one thing. Who can tell me what that one thing is that they make a decision based on? Just quickly tell me in the chat. I'm sure you're all going to get it like super, super easy. Like there's one data point that we get and we make a decision based off of. It starts with, yeah, absolutely, scales, 100% is our weight, right? So we go, yeah, we're going to look at our weight and we're going to go, oh crap, we're going to make a decision based on that. Okay, so we're going to be like, oh, I'm not eating carbs ever again, or I'm not going to, eat until 12 o'clock and I'm going to fast, right? Or I'm just going to drink, OptiFast shakes, or like that's our decision, right? But when you're just gathering like one data point, you're not getting the whole picture, okay? So you're not getting the whole, helicopter view of what's actually happening in your body, right? So what we want to be doing is gathering multiple data points, okay? And I really want you to understand the difference between subjective and objective, okay? So subjective is something that we can't really measure with a number, whereas objective is we can say, right, it's my weight, it's this number, it's my measurement, it's this number, it's my calories, macros, this number, okay? So it's like that's quantitative data, whereas your subjective measures, you can't really measure it with a number, like how your clothes fit, there's no real number, but right? Your relationship to food, can't really measure it, but okay, yeah, it's better because I'm not binging at night, or oh, it's better because I can have that piece of chocolate and not feel guilty. Energy levels, again, a bit hard to measure like with an actual number, but emotion, stress, how do you feel? How do you treat your kids? How do you treat your husband? How do you treat yourself, right? Progress photos and, things like your non-scale victories, like, oh my gosh, my belt is a couple of notches looser or whatever it might be. So who can understand the difference between yeah, Michelle, wait, absolutely. So who can tell the difference between subjective and objective? And who understands that a lot of the time we don't take these into account. We just see that number on the scale, that pesky, like whatever kilos it says, and we just go, right, rush decision. Yeah. So really it's just about, all of those subjective kind of measures as opposed to the objective measures, and looking at all of those data points before we make those adjustments based on that data is really valuable and is really, really important. Okay, so we don't want to look at, these adjustments based on like guilt or shame or judgment and go, oh my gosh, the weight's gone up, I'm ashamed about that, or I feel bad about that. It's just data, right? When we make that emotional decision, it's like, well, it's data. Now I just need to change the input. You just see the relationship between the input and the output. It's like, it's maths. It's not an emotional decision, right? So same thing with like, it's like we don't see that, oh, I didn't eat my calories today and my macros, what I was supposed to eat, and have that as an emotional decision. It's like, okay, cool, I need to just get more consistent with the input, right? So awesome. And like, it's not weighing myself. And sometimes like you can be like, oh, I don't want to weigh myself. And you're thinking about it, and you're like, oh, I'm going to pull them out, and you weigh something, like, oh crap, and it's just like this whole thing. Like we have this kind of relationship with the scales because we're thinking about it, where we've got a certain way that we feel about it, which might be negative in most cases, right? So even though you may not be weighing yourself, it may be like it's like still playing in your mind. Hormones play a huge part. Absolutely, they do. Estrogen was way off. Absolutely, like that has a huge big effect too. And a lot of that comes down to the foods that we're eating, the way that we're eating our macronutrients, perimenopausal blues. And that's what I was saying in I think it was day 2. It's like, we can insert there like, I can't make changes because, like, just because you've got some of those things going on with your hormones, that's something you can't just go, that's just the way that things are and I can't change, right? Absolutely can, but it's just realizing that that's a fact. Like, that might be coming into play, but there's ways that you can, balance those hormones and really allow that to really not have to hinder your results. So it's definitely can be a fact, but it's something that we don't look at and go, that's just the truth, well, I can't change because of that reason, right? So so don't be discouraged by that at all. So looking at those data points. And then number 5, this is an awesome key ingredient, because this just means like more food, right? And again, like that really counterintuitive idea is number 5, executing your reverse diet so that you can go back up to maintenance calories and either sit there long term or sit there for a little while until you go back through those phases again, if you haven't quite gotten to your goal yet, goal weight, goal body fat, goal way that your body looks pretty much effectively. Okay, so that's really it. So I want to just quickly look at what this reverse diet is, okay? And it's really, again, like something that perhaps you've not heard of before. So I think it is important to understand what I actually mean by that. So yesterday I spoke about adaptation when it came to training, right? So remember that word adaptation, like your body adapts to the stress that's being put on it by, lifting weights or, training. It's the same thing with our metabolisms. They're adaptive, okay? And so our metabolism adapts to the food that we feed it, or the nutrition that we give it, right? So it's important to understand that, we hear these statistics like, 95% of women, or whatever percentage it is, whoever lose the weight, gain it back on, okay? And I really want to ask you the question of like, why is that the case? Like, why does that happen, right? And a lot of the times it's because our metabolisms are adaptable, okay? So metabolic adaptation is what we call it. So basically your metabolism, not my metabolism, your metabolism, it's like they adapt. It's kind of like a fire. Like you think of like the word metabolism as like, it's a fire, right? So if you've ever had a fire before, like in your backyard, or, at a party, or, in your fireplace, or whatever it might be, right? It's like, that if you put more fuel onto your fire, like you put timber or, fuel on it, like it gets hotter, right? It gets bigger and it burns, and it just becomes this bigger thing, right? And it's the same thing with our metabolism. The more food, the more fuel. Like remember I said in day 3, like food is fuel for your body. The more food and fuel that we give it, the higher our metabolisms actually go, right? So who actually gets that? Like it's like if you think about your body, your metabolism like a fire, if you take the food away, like your fire is going to, get smaller, it's going to burn out, okay? It's going to get, less and less hot over time. It doesn't have as much fuel, okay? So we all know that that's not helpful, okay? And what we want to do, obviously, is to reach your goal is not have you rebound. Like the whole point of it is to be able to sustain your results, not just lose the weight, but to keep it off so that you don't go, you know, rebounding back to where you are before. So, and that can be really depressing, like, you know, and some people will be like, oh, you know, I've wrecked my metabolism, or I feel like it's destroyed or trashed or whatever. It's not the case, right? So it's really important to understand that, you know, the fact that your body can adjust its metabolism down and adapt down also means that you have the ability to adapt your metabolism back up. So we call it like down regulating or up regulating your metabolism, right? So it's like, you know, how do we kind of keep stoking that fire? Okay. And that's where this reverse diet comes into play. Okay. So, a reverse diet means you'll be able to eat more food. Like, give me a thumbs up if that's like, you know, hell yes, like more food. Like, to me, straight away, like, food is amazing. I love food. So to be able to eat more of it and still get the results you want and keep those results, that's just like, you know, mind-blowing stuff, right? So it's like eating more food while maintaining your desired results. Okay, so that's where reverse dieting comes from. Okay, so it's really like a simple process. So you created a calorie deficit, you know, in a cut, and perhaps you've been in a calorie deficit for a very long time if you've been eating really low calories. But what we need to do is make sure that we take the time to repair the metabolism and build it back up, to really up-regulate it, to keep fueling that fire. So that's the process that we call the reverse diet. So think about it as just like stoking your fire with more fuel, to the point where you can, obviously maintain the results. Okay, so it's not about, so don't think of a reverse diet as like, you know, I'm just going to eat all this food and put on all this body fat. Not the case. But it's being able to maintain, right, and eat more food, okay? So that's why I sort of went through that process, like, you know, in terms of reverse diet, maybe a maintenance, maybe a cut. So it's a tool to help to stoke that fire and get the metabolism going while we're working towards our body goals, okay? So that's basically on a practical level what that means, right? So it's like, you know, your metabolism is here, right? And, you know, you need to just keep, I guess, raising those calories just a little bit, and your metabolism adapts slowly, okay? And it's just like we're kind of adapting it back up to the point of, you know, where we need to be for a healthy functioning body, right? And again, those hormones come into play. Like, if you're not getting enough fuel for your body, the hormones will be all over the place, right? Things like that can happen. So that's why we really want to take that time. And a lot of women don't take that time and don't understand this process enough to realize, like, yes, you can actually eat more food and lose body fat at the same time. Like, it's pretty like counterintuitive, right? So I really just want you to understand that, you know, your body isn't effectively broken. If you're like, oh, I've been dieting for so long and, you know, it's I'm just never going to be able to get to where I want to be. Like I said before, like if you've down regulated your metabolism, inherently you can reverse that, you can upregulate it again. So it's like it's you're not broken in terms of like you've destroyed it. It's just, you know, sometimes, you know, the intention behind that obviously wasn't to destroy it, but we've just unintentionally done these things that have damaged it. But we can repair that. We can, you know, have a little fire here, and then we fuel it and we get it going and we nurture it, and then it's like, you know, it gets firing again. So it's really counterintuitive, because a lot of the times it's like, you know, that we've got to eat less food. A lot of people think that's the secret, but that is definitely not the secret, because if it was, you know, we'd all be fit and healthy and happy. But, you know, the reverse, you know, I think that's so important. And that's really like, you know, my favorite thing to teach people is like, how can you eat more food and still get, you know, these great results? So a lot of it is like mind blowing for, you know, for most women to be able to understand that. So, and I guess, you know, it's really important to understand, like, you know, whether you do decide to join us, you know, in the program and have the coaching through that, it's something that you really need to consider doing. Like, don't be afraid of that process of the reverse diet. Don't be afraid to start to really upregulate, to really just heal and have that metabolism stoked up again and fire that up. Because, you know, some people, you know, they'll go through the process and be like, oh, this can't work, right? And you have that whole belief, like I said at the start, like, what are those beliefs around nutrition? And a lot of you have said, like, less is more, eat less food, eat less carbs, you know, don't eat carbs after lunch, whatever it might be, right? So it's really, really important to understand that this process is probably the missing piece for 99% of women, right? And that's really what they need to learn and understand. So, all right, so that's pretty much, I think, a wrap. That's pretty much done. Like that's those 5 ingredients. So who can start to see, let me just stop sharing here. So who can really start to see how those 5 steps can really just come into play to be able to get you to your goals and to sustain them? So designing your customized meal plan, number 1, executing your progressive training plan, number 2, number 3, removing any mental blocks. And notice I put that as number 3 because you sort of, if you've got 1 and 2, you've kind of got the plan of what to do, right? So the nutrition, the training. And then if there's blocks coming up, you've got the plan and you're not actually executing the plan. It's like, right, how do you overcome that self-sabotage? How do you get past that? How do you stop making excuses? How do you actually execute, right? Then we make data-driven adjustments, and then we execute that reverse diet so that your metabolism is strong, your body is healthy, you can actually create those results and keep them. So it's like that 5-step plan to really like supercharge your results, okay? So who has heard of some of those terms before? Who is like thinking like, this is like completely new to me. I've never heard of a reverse diet. I've never heard of making data-driven adjustments. Let me know what your thoughts are on that, and who can really see how this kind of fits together with what we've spoken about over the last 3 days. And what I really want to ask you as well is, now that you've seen this and now that you've really got this, I guess, process, like what to do with it, okay? Because it's one thing to, you know, like if you've got a personal trainer in the gym, they could say do push-ups, but you're the one that's actually got to do the push-ups, right? Like they can't do it for you. Like it's like you have like, this is what you need to do, but you're the one that has to actually jump in and take the action. So it's like, you know, the change has to come from within you. It has to be done by you. And that's really, I guess, where you decide what you do with that information. Okay. Because, you know, going back to the beginning of the week, you know, it's like, if you keep doing the same things, you're going to be doing and, you know, keep getting the same results, right? So it's like, if you want to make change, get a different result, you've got to really make that decision, make that commitment, which a lot of you did at the start of the week, to apply it and to really make those different decisions around those action steps. Like different actions are going to get you different results, right? So it's really about applying what you've learned this week. And, you know, it's one thing to have a good plan, but it's also one thing to execute it. And that's, you know, one thing I'll just keep banging on about, okay? So, you know, it might feel really overwhelming for you, but like I said on day 1 as well, one thing at a time. Like, what's one action step that I can take today that I perhaps wouldn't have taken before this week? If I hadn't have done this challenge this week, you know, I wouldn't have taken any action. So it's like, think of it as, you know, moving forward. Don't look in your rear vision mirror and go, what have I done in the past? Like, just look to the front and be like, right, where do I need to go? If you don't look forward, you're going to be like, you know, running into a tree, you know, on the road, right? Because you don't see it. So you need to keep looking forward and really just, you know, make those decisions based on opportunity and possibility in the future, not on what you've done in the past. Like, completely, you know, don't see that as important. What you've done up until this point doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Okay. So, you know, whether you do want to come and join us in Fit Vibes, like, you know, obviously I'm going to give you some more information on that and give you the opportunity, but I really just wanted to make sure that we spent this week going through all of this and really just allowing me to teach you this content and give you this, I guess, different perspective. But for now, like, I just want to, I guess, give you that belief. If it's possible for me, if it's possible for another woman to succeed and have this result long term, it's possible for you. So I really just want you to remember that, you know, just because you might have these facts of like, yes, you know, like I am busy, like, yes, that's a fact, or yes, you know, I do have some hormonal, you know, issues going on, say, you know, menopause or something like that. Yes, that's a fact, but it doesn't mean that that has to stop you from getting the result that you want, okay? And that's really what we do in Fit Vibes. It's like we teach you how to have that transformation, to not stay stuck, to be able to get that result and keep it. So what I'm going to be doing next week is giving you a little bit more information on our program in the Fit Vibes Strength Movement. I know a lot of you ladies are already in the program, which is awesome, and I love working with you. So that's really fantastic for those of you that are perhaps interested in coming on board, going through some of this coaching, going through this content, and really working with me to allow you to do that. I would love for you to ask me any questions, but I won't release any of that information until next week, because I do want to give you the time to kind of go over all of this content that we've covered this week, to catch up, and really just understand that, yeah, if you take this information, even if it's not me as your coach, but just understand that, you have to do something different. Like, if you've come here obviously because you don't like where you are now in terms of your body or your health or whatever it is, and you really want to make a change, which is awesome. But if you want to get a different result, you really have to take those different actions. So and just believe in yourself. Yeah, believe in the fact that you can succeed, okay, and you can actually do this. So I can't wait to see you all smashing your goals. Make sure you go through your 5-day assignment, like day number 5. Go through that from what I've filled out through those 5 steps this week, because I will be announcing a winner next week, which will be an awesome prize. So if you've done all of your activities, I'm going to be going through everybody's content, seeing how engaged you all were, and picking a winner from that. So definitely don't forget to day number 5. Awesome, beautiful. So loved having you all here. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, do your challenge, go back through, watch the videos. They'll be up until Thursday. And I will see you all soon. And thank you all so much for joining me. If you're not watching live, then thank you for watching on the replay. And yeah, I've just had so much fun this week, and I just love being with you all, teaching you this content, and thank you for being so engaged. All right, thanks so much, ladies. I will talk to you very soon. Bye.